Have you ever had that feeling like you're just drifting? Or maybe you're climbing a ladder, but you're starting to suspect it's leaning against the wrong wall. Chasing a version of success that just doesn't feel like yours. It's a super common feeling, especially today. But what if I told you there's a structured, scientifically backed way to not just find your purpose, but to actively build a life of meaning? Well, there is. It's called life crafting. And today we're going to break down the science behind how you can start shaping a more fulfilling life, like right now. Okay, let's get into it.
This quote from Bob Mawad just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures what we're talking about today. It's all about ownership. The whole idea of life crafting is that your life isn't something that just happens to you. Nope, it's something you get to create. This isn't about finding some magical treasure map to happiness. It's about picking up the tools and becoming the architect of your own amazing journey.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to explore this modern search for meaning and figure out why so many of us feel kind of lost. Then, we'll look at the incredible science, and I mean incredible, that links having a purpose to living a longer, healthier life. From there, we'll get into the art of life crafting itself, before we jump into the best part, the practical 7-step toolkit you can actually use. And finally, we'll talk about how to turn all this good intention into real, actual action.
All right, Section 1, the search for meaning. And right away, we run into something I call the purpose paradox. It's this really weird thing where people can achieve all the outward signs of success. The big job, the high salary, the nice house, and yet on the inside feel completely empty. It's that huge gap between looking successful and actually feeling fulfilled.
This slide really lays out that paradox perfectly with two totally different stories. So on one side, you've got Brian. He's a bank CEO. By every external metric, he's a massive success. But he's miserable. He eventually figures out he's been living the life his father wanted for him, chasing goals based on status and money, not his own values. His goals were driven by others. And then you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger. Here's a guy from a tiny town in Austria with this seemingly insane dream of becoming a world-famous bodybuilder. People laughed at him, but his goals were 100% his own. They came from this powerful vision he had inside. He made a plan and he just stuck to it. See the difference? Brian felt empty, Arnold felt empowered. And that massive difference between Brian's emptiness and Arnold's empowerment, well, it all boils down to this one key concept: self-concordant goals. Simply put, these are goals that actually line up with your core values and what you're genuinely interested in, that come from inside you, not from your parents, not from what society says you should want, and not from chasing external rewards like cash or status. Pursuing these kinds of goals is like a cornerstone of well-being. The research is super clear. It leads to more happiness, more energy, and a much deeper sense of meaning. It's the difference between climbing a ladder someone else put up for you and building your own.
Now, I know all this talk about values and purpose might sound a little fluffy, a little abstract, but what if I told you that having a sense of purpose isn't just some nice philosophical idea to think about? What if it's actually a biological necessity with real, measurable effects on your body? Let's jump into Section 2 and see just how deep this goes.
So let's just ask the question point blank. How much does all of this really matter? Is it just about feeling a little bit happier, or is there something way more profound going on here? Well, the answer, based on some seriously incredible long-term research, is honestly staggering.
Get a load of this number. A huge study that followed thousands of people for 14 years found that having a strong sense of purpose was linked to a 15% lower risk of dying from any cause. Just let that sink in for a second. A 15% reduction in your risk of death just from having a stronger why in your life. And this isn't just for older people. This holds true across all adult ages, young, middle-aged, everybody. This is exactly why building a sense of purpose isn't some self-help luxury. It's a fundamental part of your long-term health.
And it doesn't stop with just living longer. The benefits just cascade from there. We're talking better mental health with lower rates of depression and anxiety. People who have a sense of purpose are way more likely to take care of themselves, actually go to the doctor for preventative stuff. They find it easier to self-regulate, to make those healthy choices that we all struggle with. It's even been linked to slower cognitive decline as we get older, and of course, just higher levels of happiness and satisfaction with life. This is not a small thing. It is a fundamental pillar of a healthy, thriving life.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, that search for meaning, and we've seen the incredible stakes involved. A sense of purpose is absolutely crucial for our health. So the million-dollar question is, how in the world do we actually get it? And that brings us right to Section 3, the art of life crafting. This is our evidence-based map for the journey ahead.
So what exactly is life crafting?
Well, here's the official breakdown. It's an active process. That's the key word. It's not about sitting around and waiting for some lightning bolt of inspiration to strike. It's about you deliberately sitting down and reflecting on your life, as it is now, and how you want it to be. It covers the big three: your social life, your career, and your free time. And the whole point is to make real, concrete plans to line those areas up with what you truly value. It is the conscious, intentional shaping of your life.
And what I absolutely love about this whole concept is the way it reframes everything. We always talk about finding our purpose, right? As if it's some lost object we just have to stumble upon. But life crafting says, nope, that's not it. It's a skill you can learn. Think of it more like learning to play the guitar or getting good at a sport than some mythical treasure hunt. And that's so empowering because it puts all the power right back in your hands. Okay, this brings us to the real heart of it all, the toolkit. Because if life crafting is a skill, then how do you actually learn it? What are the specific things you can do? Well, that's what Section 4 is all about. We're going to walk through the 7 core steps of a scientifically backed life crafting plan. This is where the theory becomes practice. This is where the rubber meets the road. And here they are, the 7 essential steps. It all starts with some deep reflection, figuring out your core values, your passions. Then you take a hard look at where you are right now, your habits, who you hang out with, your career path. Step 5 is this super powerful visualization exercise we're going to look at in a second. And finally, you move into the action phase, creating super specific plans and then telling someone about them to hold yourself accountable. It's a whole process that takes you from deep thought all the way to real-world action.
So let's zoom in on step 5, because this uses a really cool psychological technique called mental contrasting. This is way more than just positive thinking. First, you vividly imagine your best possible self. You write in detail about what your life looks like in 5 or 10 years if everything has gone as well as it possibly could have. This gets you optimistic and makes your vision crystal clear. But then, and this is the genius part, you contrast that with what your future looks like if you change nothing. What are the real consequences of just staying on the same path? It's that contrast that lights a fire under you. The positive vision pulls you forward, and the realistic look at your current path pushes you from behind. It creates the actual energy you need to make a change.
All right, next up is step 6, making an if-then plan. This is where you get super practical. Most of our good intentions fail because, let's be honest, we don't plan for the obstacles. This method forces you to. So you take your goal, like exercise 3 times a week. Then you identify the most likely obstacle. I always feel too tired after work. And from there, you create your automatic preloaded response. If it's a workout day and I feel tired, then I will immediately change into my gym clothes. This simple little trick basically outsources your willpower. You don't have to make a tough decision when you're tired and weak. The decision is already made for you. It's literally one of the most effective strategies out there for turning goals into actual behaviors.
So we've covered the why, the what, and the how. We've got the toolkit. In this final section, let's bring it all home. Let's talk about how you can take everything we've discussed and begin your own amazing journey of life crafting, starting today.
I really wanted to share this quote because it's just so real. This came from a student who went through this exact kind of program. And he admitted that at first he thought the whole thing was a complete and utter joke. But then something started to shift. He realized he was actually making progress on those goals he had written down almost without even noticing. And that progress inspired him to take on even bigger things. But I love his last line. It's tiny steps, but they are tiny steps that would not have happened without the goal setting. This just shows that the process really works. It's not about some single dramatic lightning bolt moment of change. It's about the power of small, intentional steps that build on each other, creating this upward spiral of positive change in your life.
And that brings us right back to where we began. Life crafting is about deciding that your life is your own. It's about accepting that you, and you alone, are responsible for the quality of it. The tools are here, the science is clear, and the benefits for your health, your happiness, your longevity are profound. So the only question left is the one right here. Your life is an amazing journey. What will you decide to build?